So we have to talk about it. Because I want to talk about it. So, I have been going through things. I recently found out that my family bloodline on my mother's side is rooted in voodoo. And my great grandmother, she wanted to protect the family. So she became a minister. And she didn't do anything with the voodoo. Oh, it's a dog. Oh my God. Hey, buddy. Where you going? Why is he out here loose? Whose dog is that? This is crazy. As soon as I come out here to talk about this shit. Yes, so speaking of dogs, I also have a tie to Set. Okay, Set is Pan-African. But anyway, going back to finding out about my rooted, I guess, religion, heritage, origin. So my great grandmother, she wanted to protect the family and, keep the family out of that. So she became a minister, and all she taught was ministry, Christianity. So I'm devastated. It's like somebody finding out that their family is not their family. Like, I'm ready to slap somebody, for real. But I understand why she did what she did. She felt like it was evil because of our ancestors. So my ancestors, they're all women. There's a couple of men in there, but the men are very suppressed by the women. History of some of my ancestors, most of them, they absolutely hate men because they were treated very sinisterly by men, and there were very traumatic experiences that they had with men, so they're very powerful women. And this lifetime they chose me, but they knew that I was going to be something different. So they've been hiding, and it started with my great grandmother. They have been hiding the truth of who we truly are. And I'm just like, bitch, this shit makes so much fucking sense. Like, I just broke down and I had to cry because, the spiritual realm reflects the physical. So when it comes to my family, it just explains so much about my family. And then we're divided, right? Because we have my mom's side and my dad's side. So my dad's side, they knew who I was. My dad be fucking with the Masons. My mom used to too. She got a couple of people that's Eastern Stars and all this type of shit. So, motherfuckers already knew what time it was with me pretty much from birth. I'm just like, wow. And, my sister, she often talks about a memory that she has of us being in a Masonic temple. We were in a room in the middle of the floor, and we were laying down on a carpet, sleep. Well, they thought we were asleep. She was up, and she was sharing with me some of the shit that she seen. And I'm just like, man, this is absolutely crazy. But my ancestors resented me because I did not choose. I did not want to be a worldly woman. They wanted me to not awaken to the truth of who I really am. But the thing is that, well, obviously, I am both. I can't ignore. So what ended up happening is that they sold me. They sold me in the spirit. So I've been pretty much an orphan out here for a minute and didn't even know the shit. But I have been adopted by my real family this lifetime. My true soul family. And it is a big ass family, and it is a mixture of all types of individuals from different backgrounds and practices and beliefs. So, I'm just like, what a fucking head buster, man. And my head, my shit has been pounding for like 3 days. I'm just like, okay, like, God, just tell me. Just tell me, because obviously what is about to come through is something in which that's going to hurt me. So just, let's just rip the Band-Aid off. So, I just broke down. You know, I can't blame anybody because nobody knows, because great grandma, you know, she hid the shit. She tried to bury it. They tried to revive it with me. So they tried to keep me asleep to who I was meant to be this lifetime so that I would choose them. And it's crazy. It's crazy. It just explains so much about my fucking life. Because they have been working against me all my life and trying to keep me in a certain state, keep me with a certain and surrounded by a certain conscious group of people. Like you know, I don't like that victim shit, but I have always felt trapped in my life and not fully understood why. So, and the thing is that I'm still gathering and getting like epiphanies, you know, and flashes. I'm having dreams of past lives and all this type of stuff. Like it's, you know, but these ancestors, these women, they did not like me. And I'm just like, this is why my opposition has just been a specific type of woman. And it's crazy because a lot of these women are like my mom. And they resented me because you know, they considered my mother to be a gift to me to show me the way. But my mother was abusive. She was an alcoholic. She was a very independent woman. She made her decisions. She did what she wanted to do. You know, whatever. But, and that shit crazy because her middle name, my mother's middle name is Marie. And she gave me the same middle name, Marie. Shit is crazy. And of course, that is because Marie Laveau chose me. I guess she felt disrespected. Oh my God. I'm just like, wow, this shit is just fucking crazy, man. That's crazy because voodoo is the number one. It's kind of like, you know, I've snooped around. You know, I've studied some things and I know a tidbit, not a lot at all, but I never felt pulled there. Oh my God. Come to find out, like everything is just making sense. So it's just, I'm just having a very hard time with everything right now. You know, and everything just being exposed to me, it's like, okay. Then come to find out my son's father's family is opposing ancestral family. And I'm just like, I guarantee the lifetime that my ancestors had with his, I guarantee they were white. I guarantee, because my son's father, it's like periodically throughout the years, you know, and I be telling him, I'm just like, nigga, you act like an old privileged white man. And this shit makes so much sense. You know, I guess my ancestors, I don't know, like it goes so deep because it's just like now I know that I have connections to Set. You know, Set was not necessarily a nice guy in the Pan-African. You know, he kind of represented the devil. So I'm just like, man, this shit, but it makes so much sense when these people start conjuring up these demons. Because I would just be sitting there. Now, look, I grew up in the church. Like, my mama had us in the church. That's just something that's passed down from, because, you know, great-grandma was a minister. You know, I got a couple of aunts and an uncle that's a pastor, an aunt that was a minister. She passed away. My mother just got into ministry. You know, we grew up in the church all day, every day. You know, when I was younger, when we was with my dad, we stayed in the church. You know, even when we came to Virginia, you know, she found us a church home. And, you know, when we turned 16 and start working and stuff, you know, that's when we kind of stopped going to church. You know, start adulting, I guess. But I've always loved spirituality. All of it. You know, it's just, I've said it before, Christianity was not giving me answers about me. So when I moved out of my mom's house, I started to explore different denominations. Denominations. That's how you say it. you know, Catholic, pagan, Greek, Egyptian. You know, they have a couple of cathedrals, you know, that house different religious groups. Jehovah's Witness. You know what I mean? Like I've explored all over the place. Like this is the most fascinating shit to me in the world. And now I understand why. I'm understanding more and more and more. You know, I went on my self-discovery journey, and that's when I found more of the metaphysical. You know, I studied a little Muslim, had a Quran, you know, all that type of stuff. I've always been interested in people from different countries and different religions, you know. Also have ties in the Hindu. But that would explain a lot, because I feel a very strong pull towards India. You know, but that shit can be savage, because the women, that's what I'm saying. There's so much around women. Because, you know, in India, like, they be selling them. Man, they did a documentary on this girl. Her aunt kidnapped her and sold her into sex trafficking. Like, the families do not want the girls back if they get put into trafficking, because they're not valuable, because they're no longer virgins. So they feel, you know, it's like there's nothing we can do with you. Man, that shit crazy. I'm just like, all this shit around women. So the thing is that things have been happening and going on with my family, and it has been doing things to the ancestors. Okay, I still haven't figured that out, but to make a long story short, you know, the ancestors realize that they need me. They need me to heal them. Now, the thing is that what's done is done, and they have to deal with their consequences for the things that they have done for so long. You know? But I created an art therapy session to plant the seeds, to help them, to help guide them in, you know, in a healthy healing direction. You know, the opposing ancestor family, they don't have any healers in their family, so they're pretty much doomed. You know, this is crazy. You know, these women, they use their power for self-gain. They didn't heal people. They didn't protect people. If anything, they brought harm. Why is that? Because they were dealing with trauma. And this is what I be telling people. You know, you want to stay in the pain of your ancestors, but that's not helping them. You know, I said it once, I'm going to say it again. They went through what they needed to go through so that you could be here. So you need to be paying them homage and showing some fucking gratitude by healing yourself. You heal your bloodline, you heal that DNA, you heal that ancestry. But, you know, that's only for people who really get into this type of stuff, who, you know, who get in this deep into the truth, we'll say. You know, I'm just like, damn, like, because I do not be scared of this crazy shit. You know, motherfuckers be losing their mind when they experience paranormal. You know, I've never had fear around this shit. And now I understand why. And I'm going to tell you, when I was a little girl, when we was living in D.C., when my mom and my dad was together, you know, I used to be scared, because it used to be like a shadow figure of, it looked like a man with a goat head. But as a little girl, I couldn't put it together. But when I got older, I had a moment to where I reflected on that memory and that time. I think I was watching a scary movie, something about being a kid being scared, like, of a monster under the bed or some shit. So that triggered that memory. You know, I never felt comfortable at night in that room, because I felt like something was always watching me. So when my little sister was born and we started sharing the bed, then, you know, like, the fear would go away. But, you know, when you a child, you don't really be paying attention to stuff like that. You know, you don't really be paying attention to stuff like that. So I just, you know, I just been flashbacking. It's like I'm going through time within my life, understanding the sacrednicities, thinking about people that I have encountered. You know, like, I'm like, wow, this is crazy. You know, they told me about this guy, but he was a part of the family. He's a part of the family, and I tried to get with him. Well, I mean, this lifetime, it's a whole other. It's been centuries, so it's just like, well, this is a different lifetime. He ain't my family member. He ain't my blood family member, but he was an older man. You know what I'm saying? And he told me he wasn't a good man. He couldn't understand why in his spirit he could not just open up to me. Like, I could really see the struggle within him. You know, the connection was there, the vibe was there, everything was there, but there was something blocking. And when I was working at that funeral home, oh my fucking God. Oh, I miss the funeral home. I can't get another job in a funeral home. Nobody is hiring me. Nobody will hire me. I love working in a funeral home. It just explains so much of my comfortability and understanding on an in-depth level about death. You know, about sickness. That would explain too, because when I got in the healthcare field, I was like 17 years old. You know, 17 years old. I think from like 17 to 24, 25, you know, I was in the healthcare, and, you know, I said to myself one day, I said, I don't think it's good for me as a young woman to be so surrounded around death and sickness. You know? But when I think about it, I mean, I was just so mature. You know, like, that field is very personal and intimate. You know, you got to wipe people's ass, you got to wash them up, and you have to think about how they feel about that. Because, you know, when I was pregnant and they had me on them drugs, honey, I couldn't do nothing they was asking me to do. I felt so helpless, and I was bleeding, and the woman had to come in there and wash me. You know, and I'm sitting there, and I'm feeling embarrassed. And then on top of that, it's just like, she's touching my vagina. I'm having thoughts, but I can't express because of the drugs that I'm on. You know, I'm just zoned out. But I'm just like, oh my God. In a way, I kind of feel like humiliated. But at the same time, I mean, it was just different. You know, because I was on the opposite end to where I'm helping other individuals. You know, but of course I would empathize with those individuals. But having the experience personally myself, it's kind of like, wow, you know, I said I'm glad that I was careful about how I treated people in that field. And I was a young woman. I was very patient. I was very mature. You know, sometimes you got to give people enemas. You know, you deal with the most grossly things. It's very, like, not necessarily grotesque, but it's kind of like, it's a little gross. It's a little disgusting. You know what I'm saying? But outside of taking care of people physically, being able to connect with them through conversation, and, you know, a lot of individuals was older when I worked in geriatrics. So, you know, they had years of stories to tell me, you know. I was just like, wow. Shit is just making so much sense. And I cried, you know, when I was told that they sold me. It's crazy because my father felt like my younger sister wasn't his. You know, he questioned if she was his for a long time, but then he ended up seeing a picture of a family member that he had never seen before, and she looked just like my sister. My little sister was definitely different because she was like real light, and she was born with like golden brown hair. Like, that shit used to shine in the sunlight. Like, she had gold streaks in her hair. You know, she ended up cutting her hair off, and it never grew back the same color. Me and my sisters were all cancers. We're all born within the, June and July. My sister is June 30th. That's Mike Tyson. She a Mike Tyson cancer. She go hard as a bitch. She definitely is. Oh shit. My little sister, she's born on July 4th. Okay, so I'm born on July 18th. So I mean, so Mother Teresa and Nelson Mandela was also July 18th. You know, so I'm just like, well, I'm still, and see, I got to take time from my son's father, because the spirits that surround him, you know, they know that I know. They know that I'm awakening. But the thing is that, you know, I'm a healer. So it's like they knew I was about to find out. And I had to take all of my stuff and put it somewhere else. You know, I had to take my shrine down. I had to take, because my shrine started growing. It started really aggravating them, because they knew I was getting close to the truth. And, you know, they didn't, you know, they were afraid of how I was going to act and respond. And it was coming through my son's father. You know, he's been, you know, confronting his ass, because he's supposed to be slowing down with the drinking, but he been out here sneaking that liquor. Now, he drank his beer. You know, when I be telling him that liquor be having, it just eat up his little energy. You could see it all over his face. He get dark. It's like a shadow just all over him. You know, they call alcohol spirits, and that they call that shit spirits for a reason, because you open it up to them spirits. I've never enjoyed drinking. You know, well, when I was younger, I used to go overboard with the shit, so that's why I never enjoyed it. But you know, I do my usual. I do 2 shots in a beer, and I'm good for the goddamn night. I'm so good. You know, and long as they got some type of whiskey, because that's my favorite, Jameson or Jack Daniels. So Jameson is my number 1 though. So I'm just like, man, this is crazy. But I'm more of a wine girl. And that's what I'm saying. There's so much of a push and pull, you know, because I have ancestors that enjoy tobacco. I have ancestors, well, it's more so of the Orishas, to where they love the wine. I love wine, you know, but I like Stella Rose wine. But my sister just put me on to a new wine. You know, it tastes more sophisticated than Stella Rose. So I'm just like, damn, you know, I'm about to switch up. You know, but I've never really enjoyed wine as much as I do, until I started working with some of the Orishas. You know, so when my son's father, when them demons was being aggravated, you know, I was just like, bruh, my energy is expanding. You know, I feel more spirit guides around me, and I don't think these are my spirit guides. So I'm just like, is somebody about to come into my life and their spirit guides are already here checking me out? Because it's a lot of them. It's a lot. Sometimes I feel like I'm in a house just full of people sitting on the floor, sitting on the counter, sitting on the couch, sitting on tables. It just seems like they're sitting everywhere within the house, and it's crowded. So, you know, I had to move everything somewhere else. I couldn't understand what was going on with my son's father, but I found out he was drinking that liquor. I said, oh. And him as a human, it makes him less tolerable, more irritated and annoyed. You know, it just eats away at his poor little mental health, you know, because he's strong in his mind. But I be telling him, nigga, if you gonna do what you do, make sure that you balancing it out with taking care of yourself too. You know? But sometimes he just, it's like he's celebrating or something. He's celebrating to himself. So he go out, and for a couple of days straight, he'll drink that liquor, then he'll stop. I confronted his ass. I said, I don't like you lying and hiding that shit. Like, you know, that it's making a liar out of you. He got upset when I said that, but that's the truth. He don't be doing no lying. And I have been asking him for the last 2 months. I'm just like, have you not noticed that you have been lying a lot lately? You may not want to tell me things, but you know, I'm not lying to you, and I'm not going to lie to you. I don't know. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. I said, you know, you may not want to tell me things, but you don't have to lie, and you don't have to lie. Because I say a lot of shit that certain things I don't want to say, but I don't be wanting to lie to him. But sometimes when I don't want him to know how I'm moving, I just won't tell him the whole truth. But he won't be lying. I'm just like, man, shit is making a liar out of you. But he a grown man. But I'm going to say what I got to say. Because I care. And if you're under a spell, my truth is going to break you out of it. So it's like I have to start all over again. It feels as if I'm being rebirthed, redirected. There's a whole new inner journey, that I need to go on. And, I don't have to worry about my ancestors anymore. And, during the time to where I was doing my art therapy session, the energy was just so thick, because it's like we would have meetings in the sanctuary. That's what we call it. The sacred space is the sanctuary. It's like a sanctuary / courthouse, so we sit, I sit there and I'm surrounded by them and we talk. And the women are so stubborn. They are so stubborn, and even with going through the art therapy session, they still were very rebellious towards me. But there's nothing that they can do because they need me. They're disgusted because they consider me to be extremely powerful, yet, it's like Lilith versus Eve. They represent Lilith, but I'm Eve to them, so they look down on me. But I'm just like, bitch, obviously I'm both. Like, come on now. But it's like they want me to choose. I don't have to choose. I can choose myself. That's what I can choose. I can do whatever the fuck I want to do. That's what I can do. You're not going to have the type of power over my life that you once had. And I didn't even get no fucking apology from none of these motherfuckers. But after we did the session, everybody just it just seems like everything is calming down. Even when it comes to my son's father's ancestral family, it just seems like everything is calming down. Like, I'm not a threat. I'm not angry. I'm not upset. I'm not vengeful. I'm following God. So just get behind me. Man, that shit is... I did a ritual on myself a couple of months ago because I knew I was going into a dark place, but I had no idea. And I asked God, am I supposed to go this way? And I had asked God this before once. God says that there are people, meaning spirit guides, that you need to connect with because there's things that you need to learn. Okay, so I went through with some of that. It started getting darker. Motherfuckers out here, they doing more and more heinous spiritual crimes. All of this shit is activating me. It's like the darker they go, it's like they're bringing me my soul family. They're bringing me my ancestors. They're trying to do shit to hurt me. And it's just like, my ancestors, I don't know. It's like they bringing them to me. This shit crazy. They bringing them to me. Ever since they started doing this stupid stuff. So it's kind of like they're using I'm just going to say they're using my magic against me. The magic that I didn't know that I had. And when I say magic, I'm just speaking like the voodoo religion. Because a lot of people have been doing voodoo. And it's just like, you have no idea that is where I'm supposed to be. That it, like, that's what you call it, gimme gotcha. You see this big beastly dog. You find a way to get this dog and sick him on somebody you don't like, only to come to find out that that's the owner of the goddamn dog. Shit's crazy. So, it's very, there are ancestors, somebody else's ancestors is very tribal. I think that's what's really aggravating his family ancestral family. Hell yeah, that shit tribal as a motherfucker. It's like real savage. I'm just like, damn, man. When we speak about the darkness, I'm just like, motherfuckers really don't know how dark this shit get. It's crazy. It makes so much fucking sense. It makes so much fucking sense. They're trying to identify who and what I am, but it's like they can't. I don't know. It's like when they sold me, that shit just did something. It just shifted something. It's like when I came through the portal into my mother's womb, it's like I was mutated. I got mutated or some shit. But I feel my energy expanding. It's getting too big for this house. Like they was taking over the house. I'm just like, bro, why is it so dark in this house? Open up all the blinds, the windows, and it's just this darkness that just is over the house. It's just... So when I took all my stuff out, everything was everything. So, I've been going through it. Shit is coming to me like little by little. So this is my inner world. Things are going on and things are happening. So, now I got to do like my research. I got to tap in to the voodoo. All throughout my journey, though, I've been pretty much performing it, because like I tell people, when it comes to voodoo, it's like it's a lot of possession. This is where the body hijacking and shit come from. How I heal people, I can bring their energy in. See, I studied Reiki too. I took a couple of Reiki classes, met a couple of Reiki masters that taught me things on the side too. So, it's all energy work. With me collecting all this information from different places, different areas, territories, whatever you want to call it, these different denominations and these different metaphysical groups and stuff, I'm figuring out a way as to how to incorporate everything, somewhat together. I don't know. It's a lot. And there are talents and gifts that I have been gaining. And I'm just like, I don't know. I have to wait on God. When I did my ritual, when God told me I was going into a dark place, I did my ritual. And I gave my heart to God. I said, keep it, honey. Keep my soul and my spirit. I said, if this be your will, then so be it. And then all of a sudden, here it comes, this big boom, months later. I just feel like slapping somebody, though. That's the biggest thing that I feel. I just feel like slapping the fuck out of somebody. Like, how the fuck was I supposed to figure this out if I never went the way that I went within my life? I guess it was the inevitable. But I'm just saying, man, I don't know. I did cry. I did have to break down because I'm just like, man, that shit fucked up. That would explain a lot about my family. You know? And I'm being monitored by somebody else's spirit guides. I'm just like, well, damn. It's real tribal. Real tribal. That too is why I had to stop working on stuff. You know, I had to stop working on my coloring books for a little bit. I had to stop working on those things. I knew something was coming. I'm just like, man, what the hell? I don't know what I want to do. I just feel like I don't even know how to enter. You know, obviously I've been doing the shit. You know, that's why people be trying to always steal my goddamn energy, always trying to latch on to my chakras. You know, God. Oh, talking about this shit is making me tired. It's draining me. I done already cried, so now I just feel like I want to slap somebody. And them bitches ain't apologized for their behavior with their stubborn ass. You know, I tell you, female dominance can be a lot worse than male dominance. These bitches be nasty and just straight up ruthless. Cause for the life of me, I'm just like, why the fuck would people try to conjure up demons on me? Why would they do that? Out of all the things that you could do, you would think of, you know, because people have been very heinous, very malice. I'm so glad that I got into mental health. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm so glad about the choices that I made. I know most people don't get it, they don't understand it, but those who get it, they get it. You know, I'm very fascinated, like I said, I'm very fascinated in this, and I've always been since I was a little girl. So I just feel like peeling my fucking skin off. You know, I feel like this is not me. This is not my body. This is ugh. It's like having to get to know myself all over again. Now I feel like I'm about to start meeting new people too. Strong people. People with some big energy. You know what I'm saying? It's just, it feels very powerful around this motherfucker lately. You know, and I don't know what's going on with my clothes, man. It's I cannot keep my clothes on. It's just, I'm like, gotta get it off of me. I just can't have these. I'm just like, it can't be the laundry detergent. I've been using the same. Well, you know what? I did use Tide. I don't never use Tide. I'm just like, why my skin keep breaking out? I'm doing my hygienic routine. I'm making sure I'm eating anti-inflammatory, and it just seems like I'm fighting something with my body. Like, ugh. Oh my God. What you say? Talking about I pissed him off. Give a fuck about pissing him off. So, you know, I get my son to drink almond milk because, you know, cow milk is not healthy. You know, they do not take care of those cows. It's blood and pus in the fucking milk. And then they put bleach in that bitch to whiten it up. That's not healthy. And he's sitting up here because his family been spitefully and purposefully, whenever my son go down there, they be giving him like regular milk, knowing that he don't drink that. But they had such a point to fucking prove, and they wanted to be nasty and spiteful. So, you know, they don't respect that he does not drink regular milk. I guess they feel like if he's going to be in their house, then he's going to drink and eat whatever they give them. That's why they always fucking around with that slave food. I don't give a fuck. He just pissed me off. Talking about he pissed off. Yeah, because I told him, I said, your parents disrespectful. And I said, I know that they've been doing that shit on purpose. I know. The fuck about that nigga being pissed off? Messing with my baby health. That's why they going through health issues. And that youngest daughter, her children, she feeding her children rotten food. Either the bitch can't cook or she being lazy. That's why her and them kids getting sick. Trifling ass bitch. I tell you, that's what I'm saying. You know, this shit be crazy. This shit be so fucking crazy. Like I'm so, you know. But whatever, like I said, I gotta tell him the truth. Cause it's just like, come on, nigga. You done told them he drank almond milk. You know, like they don't respect you. They don't respect him. They don't respect me. That's what they're showing. And they're trying to be spiteful. You know, he don't know who his family, he don't know his family members. You know, he don't know them. He's you know, he's very lighthearted. He don't deal with heavy shit. He don't deal with real shit. He can speak real shit. He can think some real shit. He can have real ideas. He can really be himself, but you know, his discernment is not there and his priorities are not there. You know, but whatever. He is who he is. I don't give a fuck about that. They know they was dead ass wrong. That's why they ass is getting sick, and especially from all that goddamn spell work they've been trying to do. Yeah. Them curses sticking to their ass. And that's what I'm saying. Like people don't know what they're getting into and what they're doing when they start fucking around in this shit. Man, when I was a church girl, when I was in the church, I would meet people who was outside of the box. I'm curious about it, but at the same time, I'm gonna do some research on that shit first. I'm gonna take some time out to get to know it, because I had heard some real terrible stories about like witchcraft and people doing rituals and incantations and seances and all this type of stuff. You know, but you got these motherfuckers, they so hateful, so driven by their hate and thinking of the worst thing possible that they can do. And he just so oblivious and just so dumb to the situation. And, you know, I'm just like, his ignorance, but he's chosen. He's chosen, so, I mean, God got him. That's why I don't be worrying about shit. I don't be fussing, arguing, worrying about shit. If I'm gonna say something, I'm just gonna say something. Nigga, fuck you, because you don't protect this family, I do. And you don't know what it takes to protect this family from what the hell your family is doing behind your back. You know, you're not getting any respect right now from me. You know, I'm trying to tell you, man, his teacher was fucking with him, and my son would tell him about his teacher, and he gonna try to gaslight my son. And we had to go through all of this drama with dealing with my son, dealing with the teacher. You see, he don't like adversity. So he gonna sit up there and say, man, you a troublemaker, you always starting trouble, blah, 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 blah. And this woman up here bullying your son and doing all type of psychological shit to him, making him feel uncomfortable, lying on him, all type of shit. And you gonna sit up here and side with her. Like, you know, I called that nigga, I said, you a coward, nigga. That's okay though, because my grandma stepped in and told me what to do. That superintendent got fired because she was the one I reached out to. My grandma said, send the same email to the school board, because she's not going to do nothing. So that's what I did. They did a 2-year investigation, got that bitch out of there. Found out some fraudulent shit that was going on with the secondary schools. Yeah. You see, and, you know, when it was heartbreaking at first, but then I had to realize who I was dealing with. You know, you're an alcoholic. Then on top of that, you can't deal with you can't deal with shit that stresses you out, because you just don't know how to hold it and keep it together. But at the same time, that's your son. How the hell you going to choose something opposing against your son? So he gonna tell my son. He gonna tell him. That's why I'll be trying to teach you nothing, because she always trying to She always trying to intervene. I was just like, you not teaching him the correct information, Dodo. Come on now. You're not about to sit here and lie to him. But, I mean, whatever. Now I understand why I gotta be who I am. You know? He's so get on my fucking nerves. Yeah, nigga, they disrespectful. They don't respect you. Wake up. Stand up. You know? See, I put the pressure on his ass. That's why I be like, you know, don't come to me with no stupid shit. And sit your ass down when you think you trying to be big boss kahuna up in this bitch, because you damn sure ain't that. You know, I be frying the fuck out of him sometimes because it's just like, I know the truth of who you are and you ain't about that. So sit down. But I mean, it's all good. God got us. Spirit team, spirit guides, ancestors, they got us. So I can walk alone, but I ain't walking alone. It just ain't enough room for other people. Oh, I'm dying. I'm so done.